It is my pleasure here, if he's ready, to bring in Representative Lucas Cayler out of District 11. Representative Cayler, how are you today? Good to see you.
Uh, Hi Matt, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. We can hear you fine too, so that's great. You just got off the floor. You guys are doing double sessions this week and last week. It seems like. We played a clip earlier today of your debate yesterday on House Bill 135, which would rein in the services that we offer to illegal aliens and such. And you had such a great point about who you're elected to represent. And I know you've been you've been using that argument. Rightfully so, throughout this legislative session, on who you're there to represent. So I wanted to get your take on how this is your first session, and I wanted to get your take on how it's been going and what your expectations have been, and how they've been met coming into this session.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me on your show today. Always enjoy the opportunity to get to talk to you and kind of discuss a little bit about my experiences down here. So obviously, I am a freshman legislator. This is my first time in the pit, you might say, and so I guess my expectations of what I had going into this venture were a little bit different. You hear stories from people about the good, the bad, and the ugly, and it's not until you really get down there do you fully understand what it is that you're going to be doing and who you're going to be working with, and just the process. So kind of learning the process of how legislation is crafted and presented in the committees, and then once it gets up to the floor, that's been a good learning curve. I've learned a lot, and really happy I've done it. I think one of the things that kind of caught me off guard, maybe specifically with this particular session, was the volume or the sheer numbers of legislation that's come through the House that has a very police state expansive language to it. I guess that's been something that's kind of been a bit of a head scratcher. Idaho is probably one of the big conservative holdouts in the United States. We value our liberty. We value the rule of law at the same time, and but there has to be a very healthy balance in there between upholding and maintaining rule and the order of law, and then infringing upon people's rights. So I put a Substack together here a couple weeks ago that's highlighting 6 specific bills that I found kind of particularly concerning. But yeah, it's just one of those things that we got to be really cautious about to read the legislation that comes through. And I will stand out here in front of the world and say that every bill that I have reviewed in committee and then voted on the floor, I have read every bill that has been presented to me, so that I know exactly what it is that I'm about to either vote yes or no on, and some of it that I can have a well thought out and prep debate for.
Yeah, I'm glad you shared that, because it feels as though that you have done your due diligence on the bills that you vote for, because sometimes you'll kind of buck the trend a little bit, and you'll be on the other side of an issue, but your argument when you stood up on that bill, for instance, the school choice refundable tax credit bill, your arguments and what you stood upon, your principle in terms of trying to defend the homeschooling community, was I think a good example of that. There's another legislator there, Representative Kyle Harris, who also he seems to have a reputation for looking at the details of all these bills as well. And even if you two may disagree here and there, you both are definitely doing your due diligence, which I think serves your constituents well.
Well, I think a common misconception is that when you're elected to be a legislator, like, your primary purpose is to pass legislation, right? And I would take probably a different viewpoint on that. I think that the state as a whole, I mean, our country as a whole, is like completely over legislated. Like, the regulations that we have from the federal government all the way down I mean, how does the average person going to be able to keep up with that on a yearly basis? Consider on average that 700 plus bills get presented before the House and the Senate. And of course, not all of them are actually going to make it through a committee. A lot of them do get killed in committee. But then, approximately half of those will make it out of committee and to the floor. And then again, we cut that number in half. And oftentimes we'll see, a quarter of the original number of bill submissions that actually get signed into law. And I think that in the spirit of small and limited government specifically, as our founding fathers designed it to be, my responsibility is not to work on passing lots and lots of legislation just to say, hey, this is what I did. These are all the bills that I passed when I was a legislator. But maybe more importantly, to start analyzing sections of code to look at outdated statute, to look at things that are just fundamentally or constitutionally unsound laws, and to work on repeal or work on amending. And then just to be very cognizant of the legislation that we're voting on. And yes, Representative Harris has done a fabulous job of reading the bills and understanding what it is that he's about to vote on. And I commend any legislator for doing that. That's, I think, the singularly most important thing that we can do down here is to understand what we're about to put a yes or a no vote on, because that could literally mean protecting people's liberty, which I will categorically state is the government's first and primary job. Amen. Or we're either knowingly or unknowingly signing over the liberty of the people to a tyrannical government.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, big kudos to you for stating all of that. What are some? It's interesting. We also covered yesterday the bill that would make the death penalty an option for juries when they're dealing with pedophile, criminals who do heinous acts on children. And it was it surprised a lot of people that this bill was around last year and didn't make it through. And then this year, it made it through the House and it heads over to the Senate, but there's still no guarantees on something that seems so like a no-brainer, right? But as you alluded to, there's, you start out with a huge chunk of bills and then it gets whittled down. I mean, what is it? What do you have any things that are in your, this is being your first year. Do you have any things in your suitcase or your briefcase of bills that you've gotten feedback from that may not have gotten through that, okay, let me go back, refine it and come back in the next session? What are you focused on?
Well, thank you for asking. So I really haven't. I've run a couple of bills for the Health and Welfare Agency, and just as a quick aside, I caught the end of the interview you did with Brian Ullman. He was talking about the rule to statute bills. I am on the Health and Welfare Committee, so we have seen quite a few of those bills come through, where we're kind of following the governor's zero-based regulation executive order. And then Alex Adams, the director of the department, he has been laser focused on returning a lot of the entire sections of IDAPA rules and putting them back into statute. And there's some mixed feelings and some mixed schools of thought on whether this is a good thing or a bad thing, right? And ultimately, I guess I've had to come down on the side of, specifically with this, that rules, while they carry the force of law, these rules are not crafted by the lawmakers, they're not crafted by the legislative body. And I think that, bureaucracies that do this are acting out of the scope of their power. But at the same time, the legislature has ceded that power to these agencies, right? So I think this is a good step insofar as moving rules to statute allows the legislative body to come in and to analyze and to amend and repeal as necessary, or maybe even add to. So I've been involved with carrying a couple of those bills for health and welfare, for the Department of Health and Welfare. And then a couple personal bills that I've been working on. I worked on a No Public Funds for Public Media Act. that a constituent was helping me with, helping me craft the language on it, and went before the House State Affairs Committee. And as many people know, that's a pretty rough committee to go in front of. And that bill did not make it out of committee, even for an introductory hearing. I do think that there is a place for this. I know this bill has been run multiple times before, so I'll be bringing that one back.
There's an appetite for that. Yeah, there's an appetite for that. I mean, whatever you can do, whatever you can do. I think we do have your Substack, so let's throw it up there. Yeah, here's the expansion of the police state in Idaho. So here's your Substack. Yeah, so we got that up there. Yeah, so folks, please go over there and read that. And how can people get to this, Representative, and how often do you update it?
Well, so to get to it, just go to Substack and type my name, Lucas Cayler, and that should bring it up. I can also be found on Facebook. My personal profile is Lucas Cayler, and I post my Substack updates to that as well as my X profile. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter. My Substack is at one, so ONE, One Nation, the underscore mark, God 208. So you can find me over there, and also post my Substacks to my X account as well as Facebook. But I try to do them weekly. I haven't been super faithful at that, but I try to do at least like once every 2 weeks to highlight, some big controversial bills that are being voted on, as well as updating all of my readers on like particularly bad legislation, like these police state expansion bills.
Yeah, very good. Awesome. Okay, good. All right, folks. Yeah, we'll provide the links. We have them up there scrolling down at the bottom too. So Representative Cayler, thank you so much for coming on to the program. You're a great patriot, good conservative guy out there doing very good work. So Caldwell should be proud to have you representing them. So thank you so much for coming on today, and we'll check in with you again.
All right. Thanks, Matt. I really appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, take care. All right.